Hello everyone, my name is Carlos Demeter. My team is conformed by Maria Silva, Diana Peñafiel, Nelson Diaz, and today we're going to talk about genetically modified organisms or GMOs. Genetically modified organisms or GMOs have had their DNA artificially modified by humans, using modern genetic manipulation techniques by changing the DNA. So, changing the genome of an organism means we can change its characteristics. Humans have been able to modify genomes of plants and animals for thousands of years by genetically modified breeding. Today, with the advances in genetic engineering techniques, we can speed this process up by introducing one specific new genome from one species into another completely unrelated species. Now, let's find out how genetic modification happens. There are a couple of different ways. There are several techniques that can be used to modify a genome, but the main one relies on bacteria. Bacteria are single-celled organisms that don't have a nucleus like ourselves, but instead have one main circle of DNA called the circular chromosome and lots of tiny circles of DNA called plasmids. In GMO, it's all about the plasmids. They are really useful tiny bits of DNA that can contain 1 or 7 genes. The cool thing about plasmids is that they can be passed between as easily as shaking hands. So plasmids are a super important part of how GMO happens.
Biological evolution is concrete, cumulative and slow, unintentional and responds to the needs of adaptation to ecological change, modifying organisms in the long term. We see some advantages such as heritable variability of certain characteristics or traits, variability between individuals of the same population in terms of reproductive success, the correlation between both types of variability. Adaptation. Adaptation is the process by which a population better adapts to its habitat and also the change in the structure or functioning of an organism that makes it more suitable to its environment. Coevolution. Interaction between organisms can produce conflict or cooperation. Extinction is the disappearance of an entire species.
Ethical and moral contradictions. One of the main disadvantages of genetic manipulation has to do with the ethical and moral sphere, since it involves the deliberate modification of a living being, which has negative aspects from many religious or philosophical points of view. In addition to this, the beginning of genetic manipulation trials in humans has increased to debates in modern society, since in many religions human beings are made in the image and likeness of God, and such modifications would be seen as an attack against of his will. The line is very fuzzy, but the genetics editing of a human being in search of perfection rather than the correction of lethal diseases or severe pathological conditions is clearly a topic to be discussed in the future and for now is a big disadvantage. In addition to this, another disadvantage of these techniques is that they are often sold and used by very restricted communities of the world population, which means that there are more and more socioeconomic and cultural differences. That is, the poor are becoming poorer and the rich are getting richer. This would not be a disadvantage if organisms are manipulated in order to alleviate hunger and poverty in the most disadvantaged sectors, either to the natural or economic resources, instead of enriching a wealthy sector of society.